Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of this F1 24 driver career. We're in RB for season 2, and if you did miss the last episode, Max Verstappen, he won the Australian Grand Prix, a 66th career victory with the two McLarens following him onto the podium, which means it was Oscar Piastri up on the step for a home podium. Unfortunately for ourselves, though, on lap 3, we had a very early engine failure, which resulted in a retirement for ourselves and no chance to try and score points at our home Grand Prix. Verstappen, he will lead the Drivers' Championship by 15 points to Lando Norris coming into this round, a sprint round, remember, here in China. And myself, after that DNF, we did drop down to P7, and McLaren, they currently lead the Constructors' Championship by 8 points to Red Bull Racing, and RB, we currently 6 P6. But we do have a secret meeting to attend for this episode, so it's going to be interesting to see who wants us to drive for them. But we have to remember that we do have our eyes on that Red Bull seat that we've been chasing for a while now. That Red Bull seat was available to us for this season, but it did come at a cost of that very much being a number 2 driver to Max Verstappen, where we could show our worth as a number driver here at RB. So now as we head into our secret meeting, and it is going to be Mercedes, that is something I was not expecting, to be honest. Mercedes is currently one of the top teams, but Red Bull is also up there with them as well as one of the better teams. Looking at the performance of Mercedes, they're third in the constructors at the moment. Russell has had is currently fourth in the championship with a best finish of fourth, and Carlos Sainz is currently 11th with a best finish of 8th. But on our side of things, we are 6th in the constructors championship. Ricardo's 15th with a best finish of 12th, and myself 7th with a best finish of 5th. So I think at the moment, just going to have to stick with... well, I'm going to continue talking with Mercedes here. We'll continue talking with them. We'll just have to make sure we keep an eye on the performance as the season progresses further on.
Scouring the socials and asking around, and I'm delighted to say that the team are none the wiser about us chatting with anyone else. And the meeting went well too. I know. I'm amazing. You're welcome.
Now, as for the failed component that we had the last race out, everything, it was the energy store. The energy store is gone. We only get 2 of those a season, so losing one this early into the season is a tough pill to swallow. So it looks like at some stage this season we will be taking a engine penalty, unfortunately. But to try and fix this, so we're going to jump into the durability here. So we got a minor MGUH upgrade that's available to us, and we're just going to do a standard development on it, as there is no reason to rush it, because both the standard and rush development will get it here before the China race. So it's also a 0% failure rate. So on the standard development we'll go for that one. We'll also jump to aerodynamics minor DRS upgrade, and the same with the MGH upgrade. They will both arrive before the Chinese Grand Prix on the development rate, so it's just going to be a standard one to make sure we get it here. And we'll jump back to the durability, and we'll also do a minor energy store upgrade after we claimed a few more points, just fast forwarding the time a little bit. And again, both development rates we'll actually now get it in before Imola, so obviously it's not going to arrive before China now, but we can definitely get it in before Imola. So once again, just a standard development. And as now we head for the weather this weekend, it's going to be really interesting. A dry sprint qualifying with the rest of the weekend in mixed conditions, which I think is going to be changing up the order for sure. It would have to be. Now then, taking a look at the R&D, Red Bull have made a massive leap in performance to make themselves the clear fastest car on the grid. Aston Martin have closed the gap to McLaren as they continue to not bring any upgrades. Mercedes have also made progress in the performance, and another team to not bring any upgrades this weekend is Ferrari. Sauber and RB, though, they have also made large performance improvements, closing the gap to the Formula A bracket of cars, and then that leaves Williams, Alpine and Haas behind a little bit as now we head into sprint qualifying.
Now here's something we haven't said for a little while. Welcome along to qualifying in China. After a few years absence from the calendar, it is great to be back here. But just who is going to put their car on pole?
And it is our first sprint quali for the season, so don't really know what to expect, what the AI, their pace is going to be like, but we're going to jump straight into our first flying lap, and at the turn 4 hairpin, we're going to lose the rear end just slightly there, and that is going to cost us quite a large amount of time on our first flying lap, but we're going to come across the line, and it's going to be P10 at the moment, so I'm not too sure if I'm really too keen on that, but we'll go again for another lap. We've done a cool down lap and gone for another push lap here, and that's going to put us P14 with Lando right behind us, setting the fastest lap of the session. That is going to be for this session. Lando Norris is fastest in SQ1 by 0.3 of a second to Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc in P4, he's 0.4 back. Daniel Ricciardo, he does make it through to the next part of qualifying. He's in P13, he's 1.1 seconds back. Knockdown in SQ1 though, Yuki Tsunoda by only a 10th. Unfortunately for myself, P17 unable to make it through with another improvement on my second lap. Nico Hulkenberg and Logan Sargent and Zhou Guanyu also knocked out.
Well, the weather is not looking good today. We're expecting the downpours to continue into today's sprint. This will make for some very tricky conditions for all the teams. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Leclerc, Russell, Stroll, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Hamilton, Ocon, Gasly, Ricciardo, Bottas, Albon, Tsunoda, Lightning, Hulkenberg, Sargent, and Zhou Guanyu. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. And alongside me today, a man small in stature but big on comment, Anthony Davidson. Hello. Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show in the sprint format today, there's definitely a change to what we're usually seeing on the track. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
We're going to struggle for a good position in this race unless we can gain some early positions. See what you can do.
And with this weather, thunderstorms in this sprint race, anything is possible. We're going to obviously be on the wet weather tyre to start with as we get ready for 5 red lights for the first sprint race of the season. We're lining up in P17 and we're off. It's going to be a very gingerly start to this sprint race, trying to get the traction down. We won't be using any sort of overtake or ERS going into the first corner here. We're going to follow Yuki Tsunoda. He's gone really for it. And now we're going to, the AI, they open up this inside here. So we're going to use the inside line here and we're going to get ourselves all the way up to P9 here on the first corner around the outside of Oscar Piastri. Can we get this done? But instead, we have a little snap of oversteer here. We're really struggling with the grip at the moment. And as you can see, they're down on the steering wheel. All of my tyres are under 60 degrees tyre temperature, which is absolutely shocking. So no wonder I feel like I've got very little grip, as I was only meant to go for the move on Lando Norris there. But with how little grip and how much I was undulating on the brake there to try and help get the car stopped with just how little grip I've got, ended up accidentally going for the move on Oscar Piastri as well. But you can just see how much I'm struggling at the moment. I turn the wheel and the car just keeps going straight. It's absolutely horrific at the moment. So hopefully in the next couple of laps we can get the tyre temperature up a little bit, as we're still side by side with Lando there, and he actually gives us a bit of a shove off the circuit, and that's going to let him go back through. Now we're under attack from Esteban Ocon, but Lando, he leaves the outside open, so we're going to send it around the outside as we head onto the back straight here, and we will get the move done on him. But you can just see how little grip that we've still got. I'm barely on the throttle here at the moment. We're still having snaps of oversteer. Now I can finally get onto full throttle going down the straight, but I am running high wings for this race. I completely forgot to have a look at the setup and see what it was, and I am still, for whatever reason, running high wings. I was just experimenting in the practice session to see what I could do, and I accidentally forgot to change my setup. So that's a mistake on my half, and I will live with it. But we're now focusing on Piastri versus Stroll here. Piastri looking to get by the Aston Martin here. You can see that we're now down into P12 after having that issue going down the back straight that we're currently on now. Stroll and Piastri will continue going side by side. And just look how wet it is. We can barely barely see the cars. We can just make out the thicker mist of the other cars through the already thick mist of the leaders going through that shot there. And it is going to be Stroll who manages to hold on ahead of Oscar Piastri. But back to us, and we are now battling with our teammate Daniel Ricciardo and continuing to struggle there with the grip. But the rears have now gone over 60 degrees tyre temperature, but the rears are still very much within the 50s. So we're struggling on grip. You can just see how much the car is flat sliding there through that first corner. But having a look here, Nico Hulkenberg, he's one of the guys that I would have thought may have been able to make it through the field just a little bit in these changing conditions. But that is smoke coming out the rear of his Haas, and that is his day done here in China for the sprint race. Nico Hulkenberg, one of the favourites that could have possibly made a heap of positions up here in the wet, has not been able to do so, and his day gets worse with that engine failure. And you can still see we've just got zero grip out here. So I think it's not so much the tyres now, that's the issue. I just think this experimental setup I was using just isn't working. I don't think this setup's allowing me to get the tyre temperature I need, because you'd think that by now I would have at least been able to crack a little bit more tyre temperature, and because since the start of the Grand Prix I've only gained about 4 degrees in tyre temp, and I should be gaining so much more. And we're going to let Daniel Ricciardo go now, but let go, I mean he's just quicker than us, so he's gone. He's up to P12, we're now down to P13. Carlos Sainz here, he's on the rear of this train for the lead, and he's spun it at the hairpin, about to finish lap 7, and he's going to very calmly reverse off the track, but it looks like he's caused an absolute traffic jam. And back on board with ourselves here, we got the yellow flags ahead of us, and look at all these cars just stationary, waiting for Carlos Sainz to get going now. I don't know why they're waiting for Carlos, but they're waiting for Carlos to get going. I think they're just, they're very nice at this point in time. But that's put us up into the points now. We're P7. That's a nice, healthy 2 points for ourselves there. Piastri's managed to get a 10-second penalty, so that would, I would imagine, be his day done. But we're going to skip now towards the end of this sprint race, and it is Sergio Perez who crosses the line ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen. So Red Bull 1-2 in the sprint race. Fernando Alonso will also get a podium here in the sprint race. Stroll is going to get the fastest lap on the last lap, and we're going to cross the line in P7. A very lucky, very lucky P7. And let's have a look at the rest of the point scorers. So George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Stroll ahead of us, and then it's us in P7, and Carlos Sainz in P8. He'll round out the final points paying position in the sprint race. Daniel Ricciardo, though, he unfortunately did get caught up in that incident at the hairpin involving Sainz as well, the instigator of that. He'll finish P17 as a result of that, and Nico Hulkenberg, the only non-finisher.
Here's something we haven't said for a little while. Welcome along to qualifying in China. After a few years' absence from the calendar, it is great to be back here. But just who is going to put their car on pole?
Alright, I have made some setup changes, and so hopefully with a mixed condition race coming up for this main Grand Prix, hopefully we can be a bit better. But I must say, with the monsoonal rains that we had in the sprint race, driving now in the dryer for this qualifying session, the car feels like it's on absolute rails. I say that after we just had a big snap coming out the hairpin, but our first flying lap will put us P6 with Hamilton right behind us, getting the fastest lap of the session so far. We'll go around for another lap there. Purple first sector, green second, green third sector, but it's still only good enough for P15. So we're definitely going to have to come in for another lap, but we can't do it. And we did not have enough time in the end to do the cooldown lap and get another lap in. And so that mistake there could have really cost us, and we don't make it into the next part of qualifying, which is a shame. You saw there Max Verstappen, he was fastest by only a single hundredth to Oscar Piastri. Sergio Perez was in at P3, and myself and Daniel were both knocked out in Q1.
It's time again then for Formula One in Shanghai. Northwest of the thriving city of over 24 million people is a circuit that first featured in the championship calendar back in 2004. It played host to Formula One's 1000th Grand Prix back in 2019. We're here in the Yangtze River Delta today, home of the 16 corners that make up the Shanghai International Circuit. 54% of this 3.3-mile lap is taken at full throttle, and we'll be getting up to speeds of around 200 miles per hour with DRS assistance down the back straight before the cars break into the tight hairpin at turn 14. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Fernando Alonso completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Perez, Sainz, Stroll, Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Hamilton, Ocon, Gasly, Albon, Bottas, Tsunoda, Joe, Lightning, Ricciardo, Sargent, and Nico Hulkenberg rounds off the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And alongside me today is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll try anyway. It's Ant Davidson. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
We're at the back, but give it 100% and we can still come away with a decent result. I believe in you. Come on.
So, if points is what we're aiming for today, I feel like we have to be extremely lucky. I have reverted my car setup back to something which I know a bit better, and so hopefully that will work for me. Strategy-wise, the default strategy is what we're going to go with. It's the medium to the hards, but I do mess around a little bit trying to see if I can't start the Grand Prix on the hard tyre, because I want to try and see if I couldn't possibly start on the hard tyre and essentially make it a one stop to the rain. But as you can see here, the game just was not letting me select the hard tyre to start the Grand Prix, and it is a 5 red light, and we're off for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 2 of F1 driver career. It's a pretty okay start, but unlike the sprint racer, we are stuck on the outside. So can we make anything work on the outside? The answer is yes. Look at the amount of grip that we managed to find on the outside of the circuit there. We'll make it 3 wide going into turn 2 here alongside the 2 McLarens there, and it is now going to be us versus, and we get side pod damage. Sorry, underbody damage according to Mark there. We've already managed to get damage and we haven't even made it to turn 4 yet. We'll continue going around the outside of Pierre Gasly, I think that is now, that we're racing against. But we are up now into P9 already, so very opportunistic at the first couple of corners there to get ourselves already up into the point. So hopefully now we can try and defend these positions here and stay within the DRS of the leading train now. But immediately, Pierre Gasly not wanting to stay behind us, he will attack us coming into this hairpin towards the end of the lap. We'll continue to go around the outside to try and see if we can't maintain this P9 and stay within the DRS of Lewis Hamilton in that scarlet red Ferrari, and we'll end the first lap there. And we've made contact with Gasly. The Gasly trying to hang around the outside. I gave him a little bit of a squeeze, and so we'll have to see what goes on there. And you can see that Gasly, he does have damage on that front wing there. He's missing one of the end plates, and he loses the position to Oscar Piastri. But Sergio Perez, he's made contact with George Russell and got himself up into P2. A very opportunistic Fernando Alonso is now looking to try and get the both of them. He's already got George Russell in that Mercedes now. And down the inside at turn 1 on Sergio Perez. Is he going to be able to get the move done? They'll continue to go side by side. Perez making the move on George Russell there. He could end up still in a net P3 here if Fernando is able to get this move completed on him. And they'll continue to go side by side. They've spent the first sector of this lap here already side by side. Surely now having the inside at this heavy braking zone, he can get the move completed as Perez is going to do a really good job here to actually keep it around the outside. He's actually going to get the better traction in. Perez will maintain P2. So it's now a Red Bull 1-2 at the front of the pack here with Fernando Alonso rounding out the podium in P3. But this battle for P3 is going to continue on. Well, sorry, P2, because Sergio Perez in that dominant Red Bull, he still has not yet broken the DRS though. Max Verstappen, he's 3.5 seconds ahead of the field. George Russell now looking to go and get himself up into P3, and he does. But Fernando Alonso now battling with Carlos Sainz. Sainz on the outside. Is he going to be able to get this move completed on his fellow Patriot, and he's going to have to keep trying to go around the long way if he wants to get the move done. But it looks like Alonso might just have the better of him, as he will get the better exit on Carlos Sainz, and we'll take a look behind. The two McLarens are going at it. Lando Norris just ahead of Oscar Piastri at the moment, but Piastri, I reckon he's going to have the better run here. He's now on the inside here for turn 4. Is he going to be able to get the move done on the British driver here? They'll continue to go side by side, but surely one of them has got to give here, and it looks like it's going to be Norris who's going to maintain the position, giving Piastri the squeeze on corner entry. Back on board with ourselves here. We're coming through turn 4, and we're being reminded of the gap to Lewis Hamilton ahead. He's well and truly broken the DRS away from us, but now we need to try and keep the tyre temperatures cool, and you'll see here through the long sweepers, especially through the right-handers, our tyres suffer quite a lot. So I don't know what is going on here. I generally am not one who to suffer from tyre wear. I'm generally pretty good on my tyres, but they're struggling. They're struggling in the wet. I couldn't get tyre temperature, and now they're too hot here in the dry. And you'll see Lando Norris now, he's getting by us as well, going down the back straight, as we seem to still be struggling with our straight line speed. And we'll come through these sweepers once again, and you can just see on the little timer there just how much these tyres are overheating, with that timer continuing to say that the tyres are staying above that 113 degree mark for way too long, and we actually fail our objective here, which is not a great way to start this Grand Prix. Kind of sets a tone for the rest of the race. And Oscar Piastri has now managed to get himself a by us as well, so we're losing, and we lock both fronts there. So we're definitely struggling with these tyres, but I don't know if maybe that was the first time hitting the brakes that hard with that much dirty air right in front of us. But either way, Oscar, he's driven off away from us on those hard tyres. The two McLarens doing the strategy that I kind of wanted to do, starting on the hards, but we'll lose out another position here to the Williams of Alex Albon, and we've got a bit of a train now forming behind us. So I think we are struggling just a tad here. But back towards the front of the field, it is Fernando Alonso versus George Russell. Alonso has managed to drop Carlos Sainz. Sainz now 3 seconds back, and he's leading a small train of his own, but Alonso is now going to be able to get P3 away from George Russell. But with the nature of this circuit, Russell's now going to have the DRS immediately back. So is he going to make something work here with the DRS? Going into turn 1, he'll use the inside line through this extremely tricky first corner, but having the inside here will mean he's going to be on the outside of a turn 2. So Alonso, it looks like he's going to be able to keep his nose in it, but is Russell going to be able to get the better exit? Yes, he can. Russell will maintain P3 for the moment, but just behind it is going to be Stroll we're looking at now, the other Aston Martin, with Alonso doing really well up in P4. Stroll also doing well to be in P6, but he's off the circuit and he seems to be slowing. Has Stroll there got an issue? It looks like he's out of the session. He is out of the session. The day is done for Lance Stroll, as we get our next objective, and it is to save some fuel essentially. And so we seem to be in a bit of a struggle town, but I'm surprised we have to save a bit of fuel here, because we've got 1.2 extra laps worth of fuel, and I always tend to overfuel the car just slightly, because I never truly know how much fuel I'll end up using, because even in the practice sessions trying to save the fuel, sometimes I can be really good in that practice session, and then for whatever reason in the race I just cannot get that fuel to be saved. As the leader, Max Verstappen, he is now in for his compulsory pit stop. Doesn't look like he wants to hang around and see when that rain is going to rock up, so he's now going to go onto the hard tyre to make sure he gets that multi-compound rule ticked off, just in case if that rain does not end up turning up. And for ourselves, we're going to follow in and we're going to do the same. I don't know if you remember seeing on that last shot, but our tyres, they're pretty cooked. We've got the little tyre icon to say that they're pretty worn. It was like the deep orange. It wasn't quite the red, but it was getting towards it. So our medium's well and truly used at this point in time. So we're going to jump on in and we're going to chuck on a set of hard tyres, which I kind of hoped, again, to start the race on and see if I couldn't make them last till about the lap 20-ish and see if that rain was going to rock up. But it looks like we're going to have to forfeit that strategy for the moment and stick the hard tyres now on lap 14 and see how long we can go before that rain does rock up. But it's now our teammate looking to make a move on Valtteri Bottas here, going into the hairpin. This will bring him up to P7. Neither of them have yet pitted, though, for their compulsory pit stop. So I'm keen to see what strategy our teammate is on, but he's actually in the lane now, so he is Valtteri Bottas. So it looks like they're both on the same, putting on the hard tire to get us to the rain period if it does end up rocking up. But based off how the weather has been so far all weekend, I think this rain is coming, and you can see the clouds starting to form off in the distance of the circuit. Max Verstappen, though, he's already overtaking Oscar Piastri. Piastri has not yet made a pit stop, so Max Verstappen, who has made a pit stop, he's already cleared the McLarens. So that is not looking good for them, as Lando Norris, he now peels into the pit lane. So it looks like the McLarens not wanting to wait for a possible rain shower either. And as you can see on board here, it is starting to look a little bit gloomy. It is starting to look a bit threatening that some rain could be on the way. You can see a lot more cloud cover now in the area. We're looking very racy behind Esteban Ocon. We do manage to save enough fuel that Mark was after. As now we take a look here at Lando Norris. He's on the fresh medium tyres versus everyone else's on the hard. And he's going to try and make the move here on Carlos Sainz. And he is going to make contact through the hairpin. And Sainz there looking to try and keep his nose in it, but he's going to back out of it just at the last second through the final corner. And he is going to have to settle for P8. And we'll do a bit of an order check now that everyone has made a pit stop. And you can see that it is definitely looking much, much more overcast. Max Verstappen leads at Red Bull 1-2 ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez by nearly 10 seconds. Fernando Alonso rounds out the podium. And it's Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton up in P6, Lando Norris in P7, Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri, and Alex Albon rounds out the top 10. Esteban Ocon, and then it's myself in P12 with my teammate Daniel Ricciardo just behind in P13. Then it's the two Saubers of Yuki Tsunoda, then Valtteri Bottas, Pierre Gasly, the two Hasses of Zhou Guan Yu and Nico Hulkenberg, P17, P18. Then it's Logan Sargent, he's rounding out the final car on the track at the moment in P19, with Stroll being the only non-finisher. And we've now got our next objective from Mark. We need to pass Ocon here. I've been very patient just sitting behind Ocon. Ocon's, you know, he's in the DRS of Albon. I'm in the DRS of Ocon. So I've been very patient just sitting behind him and waiting for the last few laps to pounce. So it's Hamilton. He's made a mistake there. A very uncharacteristic mistake from Lewis Hamilton. They're locking up the front, and that's allowed Lando Norris to get through on him. So a very easy overtake there for the McLaren on the much fresher medium tyres compared to the little bit older hard tyres on Hamilton's Ferrari there, as Piastri is now also looking to get himself past Carlos Sainz. So the McLaren seeming like they've got much better pace than a lot of the field there. And you can see here, the rain has started falling. The rain is here, and we are already struggling with the grip on these hard tyres with this small drizzle at the moment that it seems to be, you know, coming through these slower speed sweeping corners. I've been really struggling, and now I am under attack from not only my teammate but Yuki Tsunoda, because DRS is still activated at this point in time. So they've got the straight line speed on me. I'm going to slam on the brakes and try and at least stay ahead of Valtteri here, my teammate from last season. A little bit of a rivalry still going on between us there, but yeah, already as soon as the water has arrived, struggling with the grip here. As we now try and go for a little bit of an up and over overtake there, we both, myself and Yuki Tsunoda, have got massive amounts of oversteer there. Myself in like 5th gear there, getting a ton of wheel spin, and we're going to send it back down the inside of him. And now that I pretty much now know that points are not on the cards, I am trying to just at least finish as high as possible here, and try and just for the benefit of the doubt. But I've touched the curb there and a little bit of wheel spin, and I have now spun it, and we're in the gravel. Am I going to be able to get it out of the gravel without getting stuck? Yes, I can. But very unfortunate where I spun, because now I am on the racing line and I have to wait for these guys to get through before I can rejoin the track safely. And that is now me down into P18. So I think it's time now for the intermediates. Yeah, if I'm spinning, I am definitely coming in for the intermediates. And yeah, it was just a case of I slightly touched that curb there on the inside, and that was all it was. I gave it a little bit of opposite lock. We were holding a little bit of a drift there, and then eventually the tyres caught a little bit of grip and flung me the other way. So not much I really could have done there apart from maybe just not touch the curb. But either way, Sergio Perez, he's the first one to blink. He's in for the intermediates. Max Verstappen, the race leader, though, he has gone out for another lap, and we've got that little grip that we've hit the wall on the way into the pit lane. There is just no grip out here at all. So 100%, it's time for the intermediates. DRS has been disabled as well, so that's a good sign to say that it's time to come in. Lots of spray coming off the tyres as we came in for our pit stop there, and we actually do gain a little bit on Pierre Gasly here. So I guess that is a small bit of a benefit there, and because we did coming in for the pit stop there, our objective to pass Ocon thankfully has been abandoned. But there are still some cars out on circuit that haven't made a pit stop yet for the intermediates, and one is Yuki Tsunoda, which you can see that Oscar Piastri having to take avoiding action to try and not to collide into the back of him on the exit of the corner. You can just see how much slower Tsunoda is. He's already lost a second to Oscar Piastri there, and now the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton is going to be stuck behind him through this fast sweep, and not much he can do. But could Hamilton now lose out to Carlos Sainz here? That would be really, really disappointing for Hamilton if, because of a car that is off on strategy, ruins his chance here at a higher position here, and he's kind of boxed in now behind Yuki Tsunoda. They go 3 wide. There's contact at the apex of the hairpin, continuing to hit each other, and it is going to be Sainz now ahead of Hamilton. So that is extremely disappointing for the Hamilton fans out there. He has lost out due to Yuki Tsunoda trying to stay out the extra lap. On board with ourselves here, Yuki Tsunoda, after making his pit stop, has managed to come just out in front of us, and you can still see with how much that rear end is shaking around, he is still struggling a lot on these inters. We actually give him a little bit of a nudge there, helping through the corner, and you can see how much time we've now lost to Pierre Gasly. 1.5 seconds we've lost to him since we got stuck behind Yuki Tsunoda. It's now a dead drag race down this back straight. We put the ERS up to hot lap to try and not lose out in the straight line. We're going to take it down the inside here at the hairpin, gain a little bit of time back on Gasly because it looks like he's now stuck behind possibly a slow Nico Hülkenberg, and that is us now up into P17. And we've now managed to bridge the gap that we did have to Pierre Gasly, and he's going to run out a little bit wide, and we're going to use that as an invitation to go up the inside at turn 1, and that is now us up into a P16. Very opportunistic move once again from ourselves in these changing conditions, and now we're tucked up behind Nico Hülkenberg, and we're going to try and this time look around the outside. We managed to find enough grip to get alongside and down the inside at turn 2, and that is us now through on him into P15, and we've got a lap and a half, and we've been gaining rapidly on Zhou Guanyu. How much time can we gain on him and then possibly try and see if a P14 might be on the card? But going on to the final lap, the battle for P5 is continuing on. Fernando Alonso up into P5. He's defending from Oscar Piastri. He's trying to make his way back through the field, but we're going to turn our heads to Max Verstappen. It's been pure class from him today, and he will take victory here in China to take the Chinese Grand Prix, a 3rd straight victory, and he is so far the only victor this season, claiming the first 3 victories of the season. Sergio Perez will make it yet another Red Bull 1-2 here in China. 1-2 in the sprint and 1-2 in the Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, he'll cross the line and he'll come home for a P3 for Ferrari, just ahead of George Russell. And we'll take a look at Lando Norris. He's had a last lap battle there with Lewis Hamilton, but he will come across the line for a P8 in the end, which is not too good for our championship challenger here. And back on board with ourselves here, we were able to bridge a lot of the gap to Zhou Guanyu, and we'll cross the line for a P15. Very up and down race, but some positives to be able to take away from it.
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
A great display of dominance today, Crofty, by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
So that was the Chinese Grand Prix done and dusted for Season 2 here. Max Verstappen claiming another victory. It's just pure domination from Max Verstappen so far this season. His 3rd straight victory here in Season 2. Perez, he'll finish in P2. That's another 1-2 in the books for Red Bull as well, and Leclerc up on the podium as well. The rest of the top 10, George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, and Esteban Ocon will round out the points here in China. Ricciardo, he'll finish in P12 in the end. Myself, after getting that early damage, the spin, lack of pace, changing conditions, will end up P15, so I guess it's not too bad. Stroll was the only non-finisher of the Grand Prix as well. We're winning our driver rating against Sergio Perez there. We need to get to level 89 to win this one. Our driver ratings experience to level 83, racecraft to level 89, awareness to level 86, and lost some pace and focus, but we've got a new overall level of 88, and we're still sitting at a 58% driver recognition against our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And Max Verstappen, he still leads the Drivers' Championship by, 42 points now to Lando Norris. George Russell moves up to P3, tied with Lando on points. Myself, we dropped down to P9, 71 points behind. Daniel Ricciardo, he's P16, yet to score any points. And Red Bull, they actually take control of the Constructors' Championship and they're now swung it massively. They're now 37 points ahead of McLaren. Mercedes sit P3, 65 points behind. RB P6, 105 points behind. And we've got a fair bit to get under control. I have to work out what went wrong there. In the wet, we just had 0 pace. So a lot of things to look at going into Imola, which generally has some changing conditions. So if you did enjoy this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next episode where we do head to Imola.